Dr. Amakove, our conservationalist, entrepreneur, and health system strengthening expert. The floor is yours. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I think I'm allowed to share. So the word is conversationalist, but I am also in conservation, so that's fine. I'm very happy, and no problem, Michelle. I'm very happy and honored to be with you guys today. And I was approached to just share a bit about personal branding. And I thought since that is to brand yourself, whether it's in terms of how you dress, how you speak, how you present yourself as a package. And I thought I'd focus a lot more on social media, because I think we have opportunity to be present on social media, especially as medics. I'm assuming we're all medics, but it is very rare that we actually utilize that opportunity as medics. So allow me to skew it slightly towards social media and what has worked for me and what could be some of the lessons that you can pick as you go. So I have this time, do you, the world would adjust. So slowly, my ID names are Wala Amakove Elizabeth, as medical school usually makes you start with your surname and then the middle name and then the last one. But I am slowly moving away from Elizabeth, and which is part of my personal branding style, and retaining or rather getting my middle name more prominent. And the reason I'm doing this is because I discovered I used to hate this name when I was growing up. And because kids would make fun of me that, Amakove, Kobe, Mze Kobe. So when I joined social media, or rather Facebook, which was early when it started, I used to use Liz Wala for most of the time. So many people know me as that. But it reached a point where, excuse me, through the things that I write on social media, I got colleagues who would snitch on me and basically take information back to the employer. I've had a lot of that in my various employments. And so I decided to change to Amakove Wala, which many of my colleagues at that time did know us. So the name stuck. I realized people really loved it, and guys usually mispronounce it with a Russian name. So the long and short of it is Kovs. And do you, the world would adjust also is stemming from my journey, personal journey, in terms of my relationships, in terms of my parenting, in terms of my career. And this is born out of the fact that most of the time we have all these prescribed rules, either through our career or through society, or self-imposed, that sometimes we focus a lot on trying to fit in, that we forget to be ourselves. So for me, I think one of the discoveries that made me get into my space, comfortable space, was undertaking a personality test, which I usually really advocate for. It's called Myers-Briggs. Myers, Myers, and Briggs, Myers-Briggs, actually. It's a free personality test that you can take for like 10 minutes. And it has like 16 personality types. So the type that popped up for me was something that really resonated with me. And that's because I kept on being asked so many questions about how I was so different from others. And I would really struggle to be like others. So when I discovered that it's okay to be whoever I am, then that was the beginning of I Do You, the world will adjust. So I think just going into social media, there'll just be like 6 slides. For when we want to talk about social media, there are various types of social media. The first one is that I am very comfortable with, especially, is Facebook. But we know that there is YouTube, there is Twitter, Flickr, Chit Chat, I think there's Snapchat or something, FaceTime. So all these are spaces where digital era has given us a platform to interact with other people, to interact with organizations. And we need to see, not everyone is a social media person, and that's fine. But if you are in business, if you're a consultant, if you are offering a service or a product, then you do not have any excuse not to be on social media. And being on social media does not mean that you are the one who's there, but your presence, your brand, whatever product you're offering to the world needs to be there, because the world has gone digital. But you have to ask yourself first, why are you on social media? So if it's because everyone in your class or everyone in your circle is on social media, so you want to interact with them, yet it's not your thing, then that's the wrong reason to be on social media. If it is because you are looking towards growing your business, growing your brand, interacting with others, then perhaps that's a good reason. So you have to set smart goals. I will give my example. I joined Facebook in 2008, just when it started. And that time it was the in thing to do. So I didn't have a brand to market. I just needed to reconnect with my former classmates, some who had gone abroad. And I thought it was just a great space to be on. In fact, some of the time when Facebook pops up, those memory sessions, I shudder at the things I used to write in terms of the grammar and in terms of cryptic wordings that I can't even understand up to now. So I think over time I've grown to understand the social media space, especially the Facebook one, and I have deliberately driven my brand towards a certain direction, and that's because I am actually earning money from that. So for me, the goals have evolved over time, simply because now I am very deliberate about what I put out there and also what I want to achieve. So once you've said, okay, I am running my, let's say, then allow me to use your example, a fertility clinic. So let's say it's called Mzazi Fertility Clinic, and you've identified that you want to use your fertility clinic space, social media spaces to grow it. You are then you should then now identify, okay, who is your audience? Your audience in this case would be aspiring parents who want to access your services, because at the end of the day, you're there to offer fertility treatment or management services. Now, if once you identify your audience, you need to know your demographics of your audience. If your audience are people between the ages of 25 and let's say, I think someone needs to mute themselves. If you're at the age, if your audience is between the ages of 25 to let's say 40, which is maybe the peak fertility period, then you need to know where they interact. So not everyone is on Facebook. We've been told Facebook is for the older people like us guys. So you might, if your generation is younger, then you might want to consider the other Instagrams, I think Twitter, though I find Twitter, very too fast for me. LinkedIn, you might want to choose LinkedIn because LinkedIn is a professional forum. So you'd be looking more for showcasing what you do on LinkedIn. You'd be looking more for partnerships. You'd be looking at understanding what the other organizations are doing. So LinkedIn is a very professional site. I cringe when I see people posting on LinkedIn their children's birthdays or they themselves in very informal settings. And that's because LinkedIn is there to really network people at a professional level. So my persona on LinkedIn is very different from my persona on Facebook. And simply because the two platforms are meeting my two different needs, I may share a post about what I've done, let's say, on Nyarai, which is a domestic worker bureau that I run. So perhaps maybe I've had a workshop with other partners in terms of pushing for domestic worker rights. And I will share the pictures of how the workshop went, the content, basically the outputs on the LinkedIn profile. Then if you check on my personal profile in terms of Nyarai, you'd most likely find me putting a personal story. For example, maybe an interaction that I've had with an employer or an interaction I've had with an employee, and put it maybe in a humor kind of situation. So it's the same product, that there was a workshop that was looking at human rights, but the conversations on the two different platforms will be different. What I like about LinkedIn also for me is that I've linked it directly with Twitter. And so my Twitter would most likely for me resonate, or rather resonate with what my LinkedIn has written. And we're going to cover that in another slide. Now, you've decided, okay, Mzazi Fertility Clinic is going to be on social media. So you'll have a page on Facebook, you'll have a page on LinkedIn, you'll have a Twitter handle, you'll have an Instagram page. Instagram has a lot to do with images and videos, short videos, but I think now they've lengthened them. You want to have a YouTube page where you are giving educational videos, so where you maybe probably seated down and taking people through what fertility issues are, or you've interviewed a client, or you've interviewed, whatever other thing that you've done that has video. And the good thing with YouTube is that it's very public. You really don't need to sign up as such. Facebook, you have to sign up. Instagram, all these other platforms, you have to have an account, and sometimes that limits a lot of interaction for people who don't want to open multiple accounts. So consider all these platforms because of the various things that I offer you, and remember that the same products on different platforms, you need to present them differently. So you've opened these pages, and some of your pages I usually check out because sometimes I'm asked to maybe market one of your for example, the other day, I'm in a partnership with a wellness institution. And when I went to their page, I think it was like 5 days old. Okay, granted, it's a new facility. And so probably their followers and the likes and comments and posts would be fewer, but it had very few likes for a page that has potential to really, really grow. But apart from just the likes and the following, one of the things that I noticed is that there was a lot of very static information. For example, a picture of that is usually stock picture or stock images of maybe a description of mental wellness or anything to do with wellness. People connect more to human interest stories. So you want to say, okay, depression, maybe this month you want to cover depression. And so you go to a stock image, and you go to, actually most people even go to Wikipedia, download text description of depression and post it word for word. You'll find that will elicit very few reactions because people can tell that this is just material that's just being sent out and not necessarily something that I'd be interested in. But if you went in and said, maybe through one of your clients who's consented, they've shared the story of depression. So this is maybe a high-flying corporate lady whom everyone is looking up to, but in the story she shares how maybe at a certain season of her life, she went through depression, and this is how it looked like for her, and this is how she was managed, or this is how she was working with it. Guys automatically connect. So remember that when you're sharing information, not always, but try as much as possible to be human, because I think people, in as much as it's a digital space, people want to feel like they're interacting with you, albeit in a digital space. The other thing that I want to share is you should seek relationships and not just followers. I see a lot of people looking out for the numbers. So someone will say, oh, your red card, you only have, let's say, 10,000 followers. How can you be charging this much? one of the things they forget is that it's not about followers, it's about the engagement that happens on your wall. So Mzazi Fertility Clinic is there, you know, sharing information about blocked tubes, having a Q&A, having webinars, having calls that people can interact with. Once in a while sharing, you know, funny jokes. You'd find that that's someone who's looking at, let's say, working with you on a commercial level, or someone who's looking at bringing you up as a speaker, because I'm sure you're usually called to be subject matter experts on TV. They look at that kind of scenario on your profiles, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it is on Facebook, whichever profile. It's the way you engage with your audience. And I think we're in the era where people are actually selling pages so that they can get more followers. There's a friend of mine who works in the marketing department of one of these big international companies, and she said they have a tool that can tell whether your followers are, you know, or authentically from your own page or you've bought them. So remember that if you're looking at optimization tools that are there in the internet, they actually pick out, and they can also pick out how much engagement. So there's a way in which Facebook or the analytics can show you that you put up a post, these are the number of eyeballs that were on that post. These are the number of, so these are just people who saw the post. They didn't do anything. They just saw, okay, Zazi Fertility Clinic is offering surgeries on blocked tubes. Then there are those who will be like, oh, this is interesting, and they will like the page. They like the post. And then there are those who will now go one step further and comment in the section and say, oh, this is interesting. How can I know someone who can gain from this kind of surgery. How can we get in touch? Now, with social media, what matters most is that third person. It's that third person for whom you engaged, you made them take the second step, which was, apart from just liking, it was to comment. The other thing is, don't leave the social out of your social media presence. So remember to interact. So if you're following, if you have the fertility page, then you might want to see, okay, what else is in that space that could be of interest to me? For example, it could be pediatrics, because at the end of your fertility treatment, you're hoping for a child at the end. So look at what is in the newborn space, or it could be in the family planning space. So after getting that baby, you want someone to go through a family planning process. You look at that, or it could be you're looking at a women's only group, you know, where people really share in safe spaces. So you identify an ecosystem around it, and then if you're posting and you're posting about, let's say, Dr. Diana Ndeki went to give a talk about fertility treatment, please ensure that you put at Diana Ndeki, if that is your social media handle. Make sure you pick out, or it is the University of Nairobi. You pick out the page. So don't just write the University of Nairobi. Ensure that you've also picked that page by using the @ sign. Because when you do that, what happens is that there's multiplication of, it's like a domino effect of your post. So you've talked about just your fertility treatment, but the fact that you've tagged relevant people, please don't tag people who are not relevant. I often get tagged with 99 other people. Ensure that helps. It's a domino effect. So it will alert the followers of whatever other page or profile you're tagging to check your post. So you bring eyeballs onto your space, but you are also propagating the other space. And you'll find that in return, especially if you have mutual following, they also tag you when it's relevant for them. Then also I answer questions people ask. So sometimes I go to some of these profiles, maybe I'm looking for a service, and I find that, you know, someone asked a question like 3 weeks ago, a relevant question that maybe, you know, Kenyans are asking questions that are already on the main post, but no one bothered to respond. And when you do that, you'll find that people lose interest, because they'll be like, hey, this person, I've been asking how much are these shoes, and no one has answered, or where can I get, or do you have size, whatnot. So ensure that you, in as much as possible, you're able to follow through the comment section. So don't just post and leave. Come back and see what engagements are you having. You can also ask a question that people can answer there. So the moment you keep on that, then you're building relationships and you're following people. The other thing is don't just retweet. For example, I, as Amakove, maybe I have shared my story about my fertility journey, and I've done that before. And you, as Zazi Fertility Clinic, you're interested in, oh, this is an interesting story, and it has nothing to do with Zazi Fertility Clinic, but it has the content that is relevant from Zazi Fertility Clinic. Then you click on the share. Now you have the lazier option of just sharing and moving on, but the one that gains you a lot of traction on your page is when you share, but have a place your thoughts on it. For example, even just say, wow, this is a powerful story. You don't have to go into another long post again, but the fact that you've put an interaction rather than just a plain share ensures that that conversation keeps going, and also your page attracts other eyeballs. The other thing is focus on helping, not overselling. This is very, very common with people who feel that I'm here to offer a service. I don't care about anything else. I'll give the example again of the fertility clinic. So someone has come to your page. They have asked a question that is not relevant to fertility, but you have the answer. For example, they've said, look, I suffer from migraines, and what can I do? But they've come to your page, and your page is about fertility clinic. Please do not ignore that question, because you as a person have the opportunity, because you're a medic, you have the opportunity to say, it would be good to maybe have a description and say that various headaches are of different types. It would be good to be evaluated by a doctor. I'd recommend that you seek services of a medical doctor. That is all. It means that you have gone a step further, not just to focus on selling your own product, but you are there to offer solutions to other people. And the solutions here are not necessarily because they're related to your product, but because you want to, you have the capability and you have the networks to actually refer this person. You get that this person will remember. So they went maybe and got their migraine sorted out. But the next time they hear about someone with fertility issues, they'll remember that Mzazi Fertility Clinic actually supported me when I needed them. So it's, you are building you focus on helping rather than on selling. Now, this is another space that I think many of us are not aware in terms of optimizing your accounts for engagement. So we know that there are these 2 billionaires who've bought almost all the social media platforms. The good thing is that they have linked almost like Zuckerberg has linked all the Instagram and a bit of WhatsApp and also Facebook, but sana sana Instagram and Facebook. So if you're an Instagram person, that means that you're better off, or your product sells better with images and videos, and the clientele is a younger clientele, because that's where Instagram really falls under. Then you should not forget that you still have 1 or 2 people on the Facebook side, and all you need to do is link the 2 accounts, and Facebook offers that step-by-step process. So when you post on Instagram, it automatically posts on Facebook. So you're able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak. The same thing with LinkedIn and Twitter. It's you have the option of posting as just LinkedIn, but if you look at the small drop-down button, it will tell you, do I post to anyone plus Twitter, or do I post to anyone alone, or do I just post to, are restricted, only the views are only restricted to friends only. So ensure that you're posting, if it's something that you want to spread out, you click the Twitter one. It automatically goes to the Twitter handle. Also use a lot of imagery and keywords. As I think I can't emphasize this more in terms of saying that, words speak 1,000, picture speaks 1,000 words. So you might want to just say, oh, I am at University of Nairobi, let's say this session, I am attending Amakove's webinar on what. All you need to do is attach the flyer. And your post that has a picture will have more eyeballs on it naturally than a post that is just plain text. Also, use relevant keywords in your profile. A lot of it, people are using hashtags. Sometimes there's an overkill of hashtags, and they really take up your space. So identify the hashtags that are trending. For example, hashtag fertility treatment, or hashtag infertility, or hashtag. There'll be common phrases that are within your space that you need to be familiar with. And when it's relevant to the content, just tag. Because what happens is anyone who's following that hashtag will have that post, your post, popping up on their timeline when they're searching. Connect with popular accounts in your industry for additional exposure. Please remember, it costs nothing to follow each other. In fact, from this group, if you're all able to follow each other, pages now, or business profiles, because some people are private with their personal profiles, business profiles, it costs nothing. Even your competition, follow your competition, because you get to know what they're doing, but also it gets you, there's a way in which this social media optimization does that. Will somehow link whenever your competition does something, it will give you an alert. So follow popular accounts that are relevant to your industry, and do not be afraid to ask people to follow you back. That way you gain your followership. When in doubt, get visual. So visual, of course, being Medix, I have seen absurd photos of people, our clients, unethical photos of our clients. So ensure that one, you have consent. Always have consent if you're taking photography or video or any content, even a story of your client that you intend to use for your page. If you intend to use it for commercial reasons, please note that you need to remunerate your client. The second thing is let it be something that is dignified. So, for example, I worked in the fistula space, and the fistula space has all this, leaking urine, leaking stool, very miserable stories. It's very easy because that's what tags at people. Like, people in this space are moved by, emotional stories, or stories that, tag at your heart. But in that space of clamoring for attention, or clamoring for following, we lose the dignity of the client. And so even when you look at the fundraising spaces that some of us sit on, we've moved away from poverty tourism, or poverty fundraising. So you'll not see your children with macamasis and flies that are supposed to tag at your heart to donate. So please ensure that you abide by ethics. There are ways in which, and if you can't do it, there are professionals who are available to do it, in terms of just ensuring that you have ethical photos. But you don't even have to show people's faces. You can show a crowd, you can blur out faces. There are many ways in which you can go around this. Photos of events. Whenever you go for an event, and you guys travel a lot, I am yet to see people really making sure. Please do not be afraid of talking about what you're doing. It's a professional event you went for. You went for maybe minimal surgery in India. When you're there, try and locate, let's say, where the banner is for, if it's a forum, where the banner is, stand next to it, or even you can post it without you being there, and come back to your page on LinkedIn especially, and say, you know what, I am honored, I am happy. LinkedIn has this cliche phrases of, oh, I'm humbled, and we know we are not humbled, but use them, right? And say, you know what, I'm happy to be here, attending this forum. I have an interest in minimal access surgery. And you tag that forum, because I have yet to see an international forum that does not have a page online. So please look for that page. It will be a lot of work, but you will find it. So ensure you're tagging that page. You're tagging maybe the university that has sent you there, or you're tagging your business. Post it. You will be amazed. I have gotten my last 3 jobs that I got were from LinkedIn, and they were from people who looked for me on LinkedIn because of the things I talk about at a professional level. partnerships that come through. The other day, someone wrote to me. I just wrote and said, look, I'm out in the market for consultancies in health system strengthening. I got a very interesting offer from someone. They just said, I saw your LinkedIn post. I'm interested in and getting to know what more or what field we can work together. So these things come up. You'll be amazed how many people are actually reading and how many people are following. So don't be afraid to talk about the stuff you're doing, either as a business or as a person that is related to your work. Make your presence known. This is where we fail a lot as medics. I think we've been trained, for the ones who are older, like some of us, we were trained that jobs come automatically to us. And so people come seeking us. Now we are in an era where it is a man society. The space is shrinking. You have to remain relevant. People's attention spans are like 3 seconds. So if you write me an email, like I really enjoyed the email that was written by Diana and I think it was Michelle, because there was an email signature. Very few people have an email signature. So even if I want to follow up, I said, oh, I need to call Diana and just find out, okay, are we still on for Friday? I'm able to go back and find that, here's a phone number or here's an email address that I can get in touch. When I go to your social media pages and I open a business page and I find that you don't even have a phone number, and I'm sure your business has a phone number. And when you're setting up the page, Facebook, okay, this is Facebook, but even the other Instagram and whatnot, they ask you to fill demographics about your business. So they'll ask you to fill maybe a website. You may or may not have one. That's not a problem. They'll ask you to find a physical location, the nature of the business, and also a phone number and any other pages that are important. So you show seriousness when you have, so I might go to your page and not get the relevant information, but if I go to your phone number, I'm able to call and ask for information. And remember, people's attention spans are very, very short. So if I come, I land on your page, I click on About Us, and really, you've not really populated that section. I lose interest and I go to the next one because I'm like, okay, these guys don't seem like they're looking for business or they're looking for partnerships. So it's important to I move on to the next one. Then stay active. Now, I think here, because we're very busy professionals, please hire someone. If you can't, do it yourself. There are people who do it on a part-time basis. I run like 5 pages. My pages, I have someone who's on a retainer monthly, and their job is to ensure that my pages are active. This is my business pages. My personal page, I run it myself. So every week, this person has scheduled posts. We have tools that manage these pages. You don't have to remember, oh, it is Friday. I need to share about Saturday. Maybe there's something that you do every Saturday. You just go to the scheduling app. You insert that this post about maybe a talk that you do every Saturday will be going out 2 days before. And it will automatically put in the time, you put in how many people you want to reach. So all these apps are there. If you're not able to do it because it's a lot of work, it's a whole profession. We have, especially the young people, we have guys who are ready to support you on the side so that you're not the one who's managing. But just be checking and ensuring that that work is also relevant to you, because most likely they would be medics. So just ensure that the content that's getting out is there. Then again, repurposing your content. So for example, for a whole month, you've been talking about infertility. It can't be that every day or every week we're talking about blocked tubes. It could be now blocked tubes from a man's perspective. You get, so maybe you've talked about blocked tubes from a woman's perspective, the anatomy side, the management, maybe a human interest story. But who has ever interviewed the spouse of that lady? So you see, you're still talking about the same topic, but you've skewed it to a different approach. Or blocked tubes from a matter of how does the wider society view women with infertility? Things like that. So you get creative ways of twisting the same content, so you keep your people engaged, but you're able to stay relevant. Then piggyback on what's trending. For example, the other day I was talking about Shoot Your Shot, which is one of the things that I run. And the president was talking about Mambo Matatu. So Mambo Matatu is what is trending now. Who says that you cannot use your Mambo Matatu in a fertility content? So you can say Mambo Matatu ni kujiangalia ama kutumia, I hope everyone is speaking English in this context, ama kutumia family planning, ama kuenda kuonekana na daktari. That is what is trending right now. So how do you capitalize? And you can only do this if you are also on social media. So if you're not on social media, again, this thing may be very hard to do. Use tools to monitor your activity. So we have analytics. There are analytics within Facebook, there are analytics within LinkedIn. Please go back to see, okay, I put up a post, maybe I ran a campaign on fertility treatment for a month. How did it do? How did it perform? It will tell you how many people saw it, how many people liked it, and how many people actually engaged in it. And if you go a step further behind the scenes in the admin section, it can even tell you the geographic demographics of the people who are interested in your content. It can even tell you, like even in this webinar, the way this webinar is fashioned, because this is still social media, Zoom is social media. The professional Zoom, which be paying for it if you are on a level where you really use Zoom for commercial purposes, is able to tell you how many people logged in, how many people registered but didn't log in, how many people asked questions, what are the questions. It gives you a report of the questions that were asked. It gives you an option to send an email to the people after the event and say, thank you for coming for this session. For follow-up, here's our content. So if you're very serious with your business and you want to go the commercial way of sharing educative webinars, please get the commercial licenses for this thing. Do not be afraid to pay. And that's because, like for the commercial Zoom, you're able to live stream as you're doing the recording and the whatnot. It's able to live stream on different platforms. So you not only have the people who have logged in, but anyone who's loitering around on Facebook is able to see, or on LinkedIn, because you choose the platform that is there. Then create content. I think this is the last slide. Create content that people actually want to see. So you can't just be vomiting back, as one of our lecturers used to say. You can't just vomit back every, a Me Too kind of scenario. So be creative. Some trigger people with something that's contentious. Not, remember, there's some topics that you'd want to avoid, like religion or politics, but trigger something with, once in a while, something that will provoke people. And then, because there's a lot of noise out there, so you need to be captivating. I think that's the word I'm looking for. You need to be captivating such that you are able to retain your followers. So that is it on my end. I think I see 2 chats here, but these are my social media handles. As I said, I'm very, very big on the Facebook side, but I am also available on the others. I've just started learning the YouTube function, so that is it. I think that's the end. Over to you, Michelle.
Thank you so much.
Hello. I think Michelle is.
Hello.
Yeah, now we can hear
Can
you,
you hear
Michelle.
me now? Oh,
yes.
Sorry. I was saying thank you very much. I believe I don't speak just for myself, but that was a very interesting session, very eloquent. And I would like people to post their reactions and their questions. As for me, my first question would be on staying relevant. Let's say an example, the way you're saying about the fertility clinic, there's very many obstetricians running fertility clinics. How can I make myself heard or seen more than the rest, or just like the others? Because the internet space is very competitive. So how do I make myself engaging, to create the relationships on the internet better than my competitors?
Yeah, so thank you, Michelle. I think I would twist the answer in a different way in terms of not being better, but what is your niche area? So everyone, let's say, all your competitors are obstetrician gynecologists. They're most likely offering both gynae and obstetric services. But you might find that when you see your clients, maybe they come in as a couple, that sometimes the man has also something to say or has an issue. So you might find that you are, of course, an ObsGyn, but you may need maybe a urologist, or you may need a counselor, or you may need, there's something that you've picked over on the trend of your clients. And that may be an extra you'd want to offer, or that you'd want to partner with someone else. The other thing is you might want to say, okay, I am good at the consultancy space, but I find myself referring people for, let's say, Mirena, which is a contraception. Or you might find you refer people for, what else? Even just for pharma. What are these extra services that you can offer that sets you apart? Or what are these other follow-up services? Like, let's say you might tell someone, okay, I charge maybe for consultation over the 9-month pregnancy period, I charge, say, 3,000 shillings per consultation, and you need minimum of 4 visits. But if you come the 5th and 6th visit, those will be on the house. So you look for creative ways of marketing, and sometimes you might need to enlist the services of a marketer, like myself. Here I am marketing myself, but the services of people who are able to bring in that creative space that sets you apart as a niche, and then focus on that. Don't go into, in as much as you want to follow your competition, you might spend a lot of time being maybe bothered about what they're doing, what they're not doing, that you forget to what sets you apart. What sets you apart could even be your location, because you might find some of us, we are like, hey, CBD, traffic, oh, Nairobi Hospital, they've started charging, or whatnot. So your selling point may be, I'm in a quiet environment in Karen, I'm in a quiet environment in Runda, this parking space, there's the option, or you've adopted digital tools, so I'm able to book appointments and you keep your appointments. So it is what are you doing differently that sets you apart from them, and then focus on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope people are listening. Dr. Amakove is a well-known body in these social media streets and in our professional corridors. So everyone who's willing and wants to venture into this social media space, I hope you took notes and you're listening. So from our comment section, I can see Dr. Kireki Omanwa says, very interesting and timely. We need to make use of the social media to reach out to patients out there. Thanks, Amakove and Diana, for arranging this way to go. Thank you so much, Dr. Kireki. From Velma Nanyama, she says, very insightful. Dr. Roscoe, thank you. I have enjoyed the talk and very insightful. Mary Beth, my team, says, thank you for a very insightful session. Marjorie Moasia says, thank you for a very insightful session. Esther Nakesa, that was good. Prepare to be tagged, Dr. Amakove. From relevant, thank you. From Biku Salma, thank you very much for this. We have come up with a culture that is kind of unethical for doctor to advertise oneself. You work, it should speak for themselves. Isn't this conflicting? Over to you, Dr. Wala.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Salma, for that question. So yes, we did have those rules before, and they were lifted, I think, in 2012, if I'm not wrong. And that's because the board felt, there was a thin line between putting out your advert. Like I think the bigger hospitals especially were needed to talk about the kind of services that were taking Kenyans outside. So we are now allowed to advertise ourselves. So I see many doctors do not use that opportunity to do so. I was talking that she's a doctor in Gertrude's, and she educates parents on just behaviors, I think health-seeking behaviors, in a very funny way, because we have middle class. You know how our middle class our services especially for pediatrics, and I think I thought that was a very unique way of, one, advertising herself indirectly, but two, also sharing knowledge. So with us, it's about how do we utilize, and please ensure that when you're advertising that your services are that good, because what happens is that you create an expectation, and then when people go to your place, they find that the experience wasn't as good as they should, and you can do more harm than good. You'd rather have kept quiet than have put out your information out there and then did not meet most of your customers' expectations. Also learn to, again, gauge your advertising. So for example, you might want a paid advert within the social media spaces, and it costs like 1,000 shillings, guys, to reach 1 million people. So try it. You do a trial and error. Maybe you have a campaign of maybe an offer for services for a period of time. Pay for that. And within that, when you're, especially for Facebook, sorry, I lean a lot towards that, you are able to determine where you want that advert to focus on, whether it is location, so geographic location in Nairobi, or whether it is an age group, or whether it is a country, or whatever it is. So when you do that, it gives you it gives you feedback, analytics on how your advert performed. You can also ask your friends, I did this, there's this campaign running, please let me know if you've seen it, because that's just an anecdotal way of finding out if your campaign is really out there. I see people using influencers like some of us. That depends on how you want to pitch it. We also don't come cheap. Then I also see people using billboards, people using radio stations, vernacular. Again, it goes back to identifying your audience, identifying why you're there, which means what is the campaign, what is the message you want to put out, then identifying your audience and identifying now the platform that you'll use to market. But please go all out, because utilize this. This is something, it is not unethical. It is just ensure that your services match up to whatever you're telling people. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope your question has been answered, Dr. Salma. We have another question from Noel Orata. How do you prioritize your platform? And before I hand it over to you, please, members of the audience, make sure you're muted and your cameras are also off. Thank you so much. Over to you, Dr. Wala.
Yeah, I think Noel is saying, how do you monetize? So monetizing your platform is a whole other session, which I can come back for. But again, it is about the value that you bring. So if you've identified your space, like I have identified my space as a conversationalist, I bring in the uncomfortable conversations that people don't want to have. Excuse me. And this is born again out of just my nature as a person. And I told you I struggled a lot with fitting into the spaces that have been carved out for us. I realized that people were actually interested in the unspoken. And so with that, and over time and over some courses that you also go through, there are free courses. Facebook has wonderful, wonderful courses on that are free, totally free, for how to monetize your platforms. Then I was able to say, okay, if I want to bring up a topic about relationships, maybe the people who would be interested in maybe such a conversation would be maybe a condom I'm giving an example, a condom company. So I bring in a lighter way of discussing things that are hard for us to discuss, but also in between that, you'll find that in a very subtle way, that I have mentioned the company or I've mentioned the product. So I think it comes with time. You're also able to do partnerships, for example, but now for you guys, now you have to see where your code of ethics also in terms of pharmaceutical practice falls. So there'll be products that are prescription only that will be very restricted, but then there'll be others. For you guys, I think where you'd fall most will be the subject matter expert engagement. Like for me, by the time you engage me, I will tell you whether I'll ask you whether you're paying or you're not paying. And I think Diana knows I asked her because I have been coached by an executive coach who told me you're going to die passionately poor because you are very passionate about things, but you're not translating that into profit. So there are spaces where I'll not come to speak if they're not paying, because for them, it's a money-making venture, it's a commercial entity, and so I do not show up. There are spaces where I will go even if I'm not paying, and that's because I am going to get networks from it. For example, a government exercise where they're asking me to go and support some policy directives or whatever it is. It means that within that space, I'm able to interact with other people from other sectors. And I go in with a goal of, okay, from here, I need to come out with a network of 2 or 3 people. And that's what I do. So the networking, the monetizing, I think it's a whole different conversation. I see a question because I'm seeing time is running out. So if I allow me to ask to Edel is asking about consent when patients when you're taking photographs. Please, there are consent forms. I am willing to share a draft consent form. If you Google consent forms, you'll find them, model consent forms, and you just adopt it. Please ensure it is written. We've seen litigation happening because it was verbal consent, and especially because someone will say you used my image to monetize, then you are slapped with a very heavy fine. So ensure it is written, and it is written in the language that the person understands. So there's that again, you need to, if you're doing it in, let's say, a low resource setting, ensure that there's a translatable version in Swahili so that someone doesn't say, you gave me a document that I didn't understand and you made me sign something that I didn't understand. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You have sparked conversation amongst us and amongst ourselves. I see one last question from Dr. Karen Mudambwa. Did you follow the same standards on your rate card as everyone?
Yeah, that red card sparked a lot of debate. No, I didn't. And again, it was not something I just walked up to. I went through executive coaching. I was privileged in one of my employments to have that paid out for me. And it's through that, I highly recommend Sarah Richardson. She takes you through a process where you understand yourself first. Actually, it's a lot of it's a lot of emotional intelligence. And within that emotional intelligence, you get to learn yourself better. You get to learn what triggers you, what you're passionate about. And then now she starts now shaping you slowly towards, okay, how do you start packaging yourself? As an individual, for example, those who know me know that I always have something African on me. So for me, that's my signature branding in terms of dress code. As a CV, actually, we were all made to do coffee cards. I think some of you were, I don't know if you're here, but there's a session I took, I think around 10 doctors through. So at the end of it, you have to have a calling card. Now, this is another thing that I don't see doctors having. Personal branding, calling cards, and you can have it in soft copy nowadays. We want to save our trees. So there are apps that you can do that you just have a QR code and your contacts are uploaded on someone's phone. So you need to have a calling card, what you stand for, what are your values, and what do you offer? And then your CV, and the CV is a whole different discussion. And then now, what are the areas, your businesses? Then you go to that. So she takes you from inside out, so that by the time you're coming out, you're very confident. Like for me, I was very confident. I said, this is what it means for me, because I'm a creative. So it's very hard to quantify my thinking capacity. And I said, I can't say that I'm going to use this Caroline Mutako's rate, or I'm going to use Crazy Kena's rate, because they too have their own, they feel that's the space they want to play in, that's the space they want to play in. So you start with what do you bring on the table? And if your value is so good, that people will come to you. And for me, it's working. People are coming to me. And so that is that's how the red card is. In fact, there are people who are paying higher than that. So it is possible to actually position yourself, even for you as consultants, who say that you have to charge 3,000 because the guy next to is charging 3,000. What value do you bring? Do you have extra titles? Do you take more time with your patient? Do you have your setup? Is it in a different place? All those are what contributes towards the price that you put on your services. And it's very hard. I think for doctors, we are taught to be that medicine is a calling, and it translates even in how we do our other businesses. We have a very warrior hat. So do not be afraid to know your value, know your worth, and put a price to it. And please turn down engagements or services that are not paying you what you need to be paid just because they feel there are many others. Don't be afraid to turn down. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Do not be afraid to turn down. That is difficult for many, but we'll take that home. Are there any more questions or reactions? For a summary, I'd like to say thank you very much. What we have gathered for us: identify your niche, identify your audience, engage, stay active, and create relationships, not looking for followers. Thank you so much, Dr. Amakove, for taking time from your schedule, very busy schedule, to share your words of wisdom with us. Thank you very much. Over to Dr. Ondieki.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Amakove Wala. I'm extremely grateful that you accepted to speak to us this morning. And I feel, also I'm very happy that you also gave me free advertising over there. So I'm going to receive it very gratefully. So people have gotten tons of tips. Really, we don't take advantage of this. I didn't know that we are now allowed to advertise, because they could see people advertising. I'm like, these people don't know it's not legal. So it's good to know that truly now we are allowed to go full out and be just like other professionals and be out there. And thank you for the tons of tips. I think people now know what they need to do. And should they need to access you, they know they can be able to access you. So thank you very much for your time. And thank you very much, everybody, for coming today. So have a good day. Thank you, everyone.